Hi, welcome back to Art and Soul. My name is Mike Severin. I'm glad you could join me today. Today's show, we're going to be finishing up a painting we started last week, hopefully today. And it's of some beautiful aspen trees, which I really have got where I love painting here lately. It's kind of a different perspective on them. It's like you're laying down in the grass looking up into the canopy of the leaves above us. And so what we did last week was we did our background, and we blocked in our tree trunks and just some background colors here that we're going to have for the leaves themselves. So tonight we'll take and finish up the painting and kind of put it all together and clean it up, and that way we can get on next week to a new show. So I want to go quickly through the palette that we're going to be using tonight. Here on our palette we have our cad yellow, our cad red, we have titanium white, our cobalt blue, and our tonight I'm just using a straight black rather than mixing it up, which I normally would do, but for time's sake I want to do it just straight black. So what I'd like to do to begin with is I'd like to put in some limbs off of these trees, and how we do that is we're going to grab our script brush, and those of you that have never used a script brush, they make wonderful tree limbs used for a lot of different things, but mainly for tree limbs that I use it for. And what I'm doing is I'm going into that straight black, getting a lot of paint thinner into it. I want this to be very fluid, not like water, but ink, more of an ink-like consistency. So once we've loaded up our brush, we'll take now, and we want to kind of think about the perspective as you're looking up. We don't want these limbs to come off to the side, because if you were looking up into the canopy, everything would be going up. So we're going to take and kind of incorporate that in, and just going to do some little limbs that might be coming off here. And these are always fun to do, and if you're struggling doing these limbs like this, just take and do some practicing. Just as most of the time when I'm doing lessons, the thing that I see is people where they have the struggle is getting the consistency of the paint right to where it comes off of the brush. And we're not really worried about too much about where these limbs are going, more just needing to get the indication that they're there. And you know, there may be one that's coming in from one of these trees that's off of the side of the canvas here that's coming in, so we'll take and put in a little indication of that. You know, everybody's composition is going to be a little different, and their idea of what they're wanting to do, and what they're trying to accomplish in their painting. And you know, everybody's got a different idea of what looks good and what their tastes are and likes. And I talk about it all the time. That's the fun of painting, is it's such an individual thing, and it's an individual expression of who you are and what you're feeling at that time. It's interesting to me to always go back and see some of the paintings that I've done in the past, and just within a couple of minutes when I see it, I can instantly remember back to when I was painting that particular painting and the mood I was in and what I was feeling, what I was trying to express. So I've got some really nice little limbs coming in there. I'm pretty happy with that. Now I'd like to take, means we've got that script brush with that black, and I want to take some of these tree trunks now and make them look a little more like aspens. And aspens have a very unique little feature on them. As they grow, where these limbs are at, they leave these little knots that are there, and they almost look like eyes as they grow around them. And you can put as many or as few of these in as you would like. But this is definitely a way of making those trees a little more identifiable that they are aspens. Somebody asked me the other day, is there a difference between aspen trees and birch trees? And I said, honestly, I don't know. That's a very good question. I should have researched that out a little more. And this paint that I put on last week with this bark is still there's still spots of it that are still very wet, and because the paint was so thick, it just takes a long time to dry. It's one of the blessings and one of the curses of having working with oil paints, is that they dry really slow, which is good in some respects because you can take and blend an area much better and over a longer period of time. But at the same time, it's hard sometimes when you have to wait for an area to dry before you can come in with the next layer. So, like I said, this is still, some of these are still quite wet because this bark is so thick. So we'll do, and we'll take now, and we're going to grab our palette knife, and I want to take and just put in some really good popping highlights onto the sides of these trees. And I've turned the canvas on its side just to make it easier for me. There's nothing that says you have to keep it upright. Whatever helps you get to do the portion you want to do the way you want to is the way to do it. And what I did there is, if you noticed, I just pulled out my paint and then I just made a little swipe across it. And you can see on the end of the palette knife, there's a little bead of white paint that's the full length there. And so we just want to take just some of this and just make it pop a little brighter as a highlight. And you can see where I'm touching some of that paint that was on there even from last week. It's mixing a little bit. And I'm putting very, very little pressure on that knife. I'm just basically just setting it there and just letting it graze down across the surface. And it'll pull off little pieces of paint. And I've often said, sometimes I think that the paintings are almost, they know how they want to be painted. They just need somebody there to do them. And so I just like letting the canvas pull off the amount of paint that it wants. That sounds kind of goofy maybe to some people, but that's okay. As an artist, you are allowed to be goofy. In fact, this week I've been, if you watched last week, I did a special for Valentine's Day, and this week in real time is actually Valentine's Day, and coming up this weekend here in a few days. And so all week long I've been posting the whole week dedicated to CJ, and it's been funny because I've had more criticism talking about love than I've probably had over almost anything else that I've ever posted. And it's, I just keep saying, well, everybody knows I'm an artist. I'm allowed to be a little weird. And if nobody else understands it, gets it, it's okay, because it's not meant for anybody but CJ. So don't be afraid to embrace your artist side. Be a little weird. Nobody else understands it. That's okay. So I went straight into the black there, you probably saw, and I'm just bringing in a little bit of, on the shadowed side, just to make that a little more dramatic. Makes it look a little more realistic, I think, as well. And you can work that for as long or as little as you would like. It's your painting. You just do it the way you want to do it. Maybe just a couple little spots up here that need a little more. It looks pretty good. So now we've got our tree trunks pretty much in place, and we've got our limbs in place. Now what we need to do is we need to come in now and make those leaves pop out and bring them to life a little bit more. And what I did last week was I used two different colors. I used that cad red with the yellow, and that gave us kind of this orangish color. It's a variation. It's not all reds, it's not all yellows, it's not all orange. It's kind of a mixture of all of those things. And we did that with a big 1-inch brush last week. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One, for speed, just so that we could get that blocked in faster. But part of it was, this is in the background here. You're not going to be distinguishing individual leaves. Now, I've done aspen trees where I've actually come in and with every little dot filled it in, and it looks really good up close, but at a distance you really can't tell that much difference between what we're going to do tonight and as well as what you would do if you did it that way. So for the speed of television, we'll just do it with this round bristle brush, and I've just loaded up kind of a mix of colors on there, and we'll start coming back in now and hitting some of this with going right over our limbs that we've already put on there, because we want that to make it push that back into it, make it look like it's more realistic. These are more in the foreground, so they would be popping more. You know, as we are in this Valentine's time of the year, and a lot of people thinking about love and relationships, and that's all great and awesome, but it's something that needs to be done and emphasized and worked on a daily basis all year long. Sometimes two people aren't necessarily on the same page. Sometimes, relationships kind of seem like they go apart in many ways because of lack of time together or circumstances maybe that are happening. And, if it's somebody you love and care about, make them a priority in your life, and don't ever let them question whether or not you love and care about them. And it goes a lot of times way beyond your words, but it has to do with the actions that you do and the passion that you show them in everything you do for them. Make them never question how you feel and how you love. And I truly believe that if you will do that, you'll have a healthy relationship, and that love will be reciprocated back. And sometimes it doesn't always feel like that's what's happening in our lives, but it's there. And you're going, why is he off on a tangent about love again? It's hard not to this time of year especially. And that's the reason why I call this show Art and Soul. This isn't just about painting, it's about expressing yourself, expressing those emotions through art and through creativity. But it's also about feeding the soul and inspiring you and encouraging you. And maybe, maybe you're having kind of a hard time this week because it is Valentine's Day and you don't have anybody. It's okay. God's got a perfect plan for you and got the right person out there for you. Just a matter of being patient and loving those that are around you. Blessing those that are around you whenever you can. So, as you can see, I kind of filled in a lot of that area with the yellows and oranges, some areas that are more bright with the orange than others, some more yellow than others, because the sun would be hitting and sparkling off of those different leaves at different places. And I like how this flows, and I talk a lot of times when I'm doing lessons about composition, and I want to take just a minute and show you kind of the reasons why I've done things the way I have with the flow of the leaves, the tree pattern. Our eye will take, and it's automatically going to focus in on something. So we want all of the focus. That's the reason why these limbs all come to a peak here. That's why these limbs are coming in. This is our focal point in our painting. So we want everything so that when the eye sees it, the eye is just going to automatically come into that focal point. And that's really important. There's just for as an example, there's a couple of little limbs that stick off here that in my eye kind of bring my eye for some reason over there to that area. I want to take in and correct that. So we'll just get some more paint and we'll just tap out a few little limbs that come out there off of that. And by doing that, it really makes it more pleasing to your eye when you look at that. Step back and look at it. And I tell people all the time when I'm teaching, the best way to look at it is you can paint up close and it looks one way, but until you step back about 5 or 6 foot away from it, you're not going to really get a true feel for what you've painted there. It's a different perspective completely. And they say that the average viewing distance is 6 foot, so that makes a lot of sense. So I'm pretty pleased with the way that looks. I'm pleased with the flow of it. The one thing that I don't really like is just having these blobs. I'd like to have maybe some more individual leaves that are popping out. So I'm just going to grab just a little bitty, just a pointed little brush here, and I'm just going to load straight into that cad yellow, and I just want to take and just do a few little dabs here and there just to make the eye, it's automatically going to figure out that those are leaves, but by doing this, it just kind of finishes it off, makes it look a little more realistic. Maybe you want to take and do all these individual leaves. I would say, if that's what you want to do, go for it. It's very tedious, very time consuming, and the thing that I would encourage you to do if you decide to go that direction is don't get carried away just in one area. Continually work around the painting, and by doing that, you don't get one area that just is overworked. And a lot of times, especially in this situation, I'm coming in with fresh paint, and within about 5 or 6 daubs on the canvas, I'm already picking up the paint that was on there before that wet paint. So be sure to reload often. Even wipe your brush out if you need to. Whatever you need, just to try to keep those colors pure if you're wanting them to stay pure, because otherwise, the more you work it on there, the more it's going to blend with the other colors. And we're trying to not make mud here, we're trying to make leaves. So, and this is a fun, simple little painting that really anybody can do. In fact, I have a student right now, Patty, that's painting this in the studio, and she is absolutely loving it. It's so much fun for her, and she's actually doing all of the individual groupings of leaves, and it's it's kind of tedious, but it's at the same time it's quite fun. So we've got a bunch of the reds or the yellows on there, and I think what I'd like to do is maybe some of these areas where it maybe is deeper back, I'd like to come in maybe with some almost straight red, CAD red, and we'll see if that's too bright. No, it's not too bad. So I'd like to just kind of put in a few spatterings of those, and if you are out there and are an expert on aspens, you'll know that they don't really have many red leaves. They go from green into the yellows and oranges. So all I'm doing basically is I want them just putting in just a little bit of this, just more as just my own take on it. Thing you don't want to do is you don't want it to look, in fact there's a couple of areas here that I did where it actually looks like apples, and I don't want it to look like apples in that tree. This is supposed to be an aspen tree, not an apple tree. So I'm just going to clean my brush out really quickly, and I'm going to go straight into that CAD yellow. I don't want it to look like an apple tree. Yeah, that's better. Just deadened out some of those red. If it's, kind of look at it and see if it needs adjusted a little bit. But I like having those little pops of red in there. I think it adds a little more character to it, and you just have to kind of be thinking. And one of those things too, again, with stepping back, you can look at that and it might pop out more as an apple tree. So I can't emphasize that enough, to step back often from the painting, and I still have to do it even though I paint and I know what it's going to look like maybe at a distance. There's still a lot of times when I step back and I'm surprised at how it looks. And maybe you want to take and put in somebody asked me the other day how to do this. He said, you put in those birds quite often in your paintings, and I'll show you how to make a bird. They're really simple to make. So I've just grabbed my script brush again, and we'll go right into our red, or our black here. And just off on the side here, I'll show you. All it is basically just making a little V. And you can do as many of those as you want. You can do them in different shapes, but they're basically the same thing, just little V's. So we'll put in a couple of little birds maybe that are flying along here in the background. Put in as many birds or as few birds as you'd like. It's your painting. Do it the way you want to. And with that, I think we're going to call this one good. And it's a fun little painting. I hope you try it at home. It's a real fun little painting that anybody can do with just a little bit of time. and a little bit of effort and some creativity. As you know, the last part of the show, as always, is the heart part of the soul. First part's art, the second part, a little bit at the end, is the soul part. I mentioned earlier that I've been posting a little thing to CJ every day this week as a dedication for my love for CJ coming up to Valentine's Day. I've had a lot of people that have said, Mike, you have such a Pollyanna outlook on love. It's not realistic. I believe that love, if it comes from God, it doesn't matter what anybody says, doesn't matter what the world says. You believe it, you need to show it that way. God loves us unconditionally, loves us completely and wholly, and that's the way we need to love others. I had a gentleman right before, about an hour before I came in here tonight, that sent me a message, said, I know you've got some criticism this week, but he said, I needed to hear some of that because he said, I haven't been treating my wife with the respect and with the love and showing her the love that she deserves. And so he's going to make an effort to put that out and work harder towards that. Maybe you've got somebody in your life right now that maybe you're struggling in your relationship or in your home. And things aren't maybe the way they should be, maybe the way you want them to be. Show them love. Show them true love. Don't blame them for things. Don't judge them on things that they've done in the past. Just love them. And even though it may not feel like that love is coming back to you, it's okay. Continue to love. God's love is eternal. It's eternal for every person on earth. And I believe that if God put that in us, then it's our duty to show that love to others. This Valentine's Day, if you don't have somebody, you might be down, you might be depressed, you might feel alone and lonely. And I say, you know what? I can relate to that. I'm going to spend my Valentine's Day alone as well. But that's okay, because I know that there are people out there that even though they may not be able to express it or show it back in return, love me and care about me. There's people in your life that love and care about you, even though you may feel like you're alone and no one does. I would encourage you, look to those things in your life that are blessings. We've all been blessed in ways that we can never even comprehend until we stop and think about them. Think about those blessings you have in your life. Concentrate on the positives that are there. Find something creative to do. Maybe a painting, maybe a jewelry making. Who knows what it might be. But find something to show that love and creativity out into the universe. I believe with all my heart that we're all connected. And I know without a shadow of a doubt that CJ is connected, even though I don't see her, talk to CJ. That is still alive and very real, and I will shout it from every housetop that I need to. That love is strong and will never fade, just like God's love. Have a great weekend. Have a great Valentine's Day. Find something to be creative with. Show love to those around you. Every chance you have, every opportunity you have to share love with those. There's a lot of people that are hurting. A little bit of love from you might cheer them up and make their day. Until next week, have a great week. Blessings. CJ, as always, I love you.